Howdy y'all, namaste and welcome to IDIS 4004, this interdisciplinary capstone thesis course. My name's Brad, you can call me Brad. Most of you have had me before, many of you have had me for IDIS 3004, the capstone research course, where you kind of formulated and planned out and did all the research for your capstone thesis course. For your capstone, and now it's time to write the capstone course, right? So many of you already know me, some of you, most of you from that course, some of you from my philosophy courses, my religion courses, or other courses I've taught, ethics and social philosophy and that kind of stuff, which is dope. Really looking forward to chatting with you again and catching up with you and seeing what's new on your academic journey, but mostly interested in your capstone thesis. So I've been teaching this course for quite a number of years. So I've been teaching it at Fitchburg State since 2016. So I think this is my 6th year, but this is already my 3rd time just this year alone teaching the course. And so I've taught, hundreds of students throughout the course of this. And I taught, when I was at Harvard, I taught a version of this course at the master's level. So in fact, it was kind of the first course that I really taught, on my own. So I really love teaching this course. The reason I love teaching this course is because I get to learn so much, right? If you have the right topic is one that you are passionate about, that you're excited about, that you're eager to learn about, and you're eager to teach me and others about. Right? So if you have the right topic and it checks all of those boxes, then I am going to learn a lot. You're going to know more about your topic. Unless you're doing like philosophy or religion or something that I'm an expert in, chances, the vast majority of students know more about their topic than I do, right? My role here is more to help you write the best damn capstone thesis that you can, right? To take your passion and think about, they're all excited, to think about whatever it is about which you're passionate, and to take that and the research that you've done and the learning that you've done over the past however many months or years, and write that into a capstone thesis that you're excited about, that you're eager for people to read, that you want people to show off, right? Capstone thesis is not like other essays that you write in college. It's just not, right? This is not some essay that I don't tell you what to write. You decide what to write. And I'm not the audience, the main audience of like if you're writing an essay for philosophy class, then you're writing it for the philosophy professor, right? He or she, they are your audience. But when you're writing a capstone thesis, you're writing it for a different kind of audience. And that's one of the things that we'll talk about, in our first meeting, which is, who are you writing for? What's this topic that you're writing about? And who do you want to read it, right? When it's done, when it's all polished, when you put all this work into it, who are you trying to speak to? Who are you trying to teach about this topic? Who are you trying to communicate to? Who are you trying to say something to? Are you making an argument about something? If so, who are you trying to persuade? Right? Who are you trying to speak to? Who's your audience for this? If you're, I think over the years, having taught hundreds of students on their capstone thesis, nothing really comes together until you decide who your audience is, right? You got to figure out who you're writing to. Who do you want to read this? Who are you trying to speak to? And once you do, what are you trying to say to them, right? All these things that you've learned from reading all this peer-reviewed research, then, what are you trying to say to that community? What are you trying to speak to? And what do you have to add to the conversation, right? How do you put yourself into it? And how do you, so one of the things that makes a capstone thesis different than other kinds of theses, you know what? I'm going to let them in. So here's the problem, right? They've been grazing and they've kind of overgrazed this grass over here. I'm running out of grass. It's fall, right? So the grass has stopped growing. We're also got a lot of dryness over here on my farm, like everybody else does. And so, this Buttercup. So, it's time to shift from pasture feeding to hay. I'm gonna let them in here. I'm gonna go in there. Gonna take out my camera. So one of the things you got to figure out about your thesis is, who do you want to read it? What do you want to try and say to them, right? Now, some things are going to be the same in every capstone thesis. And in my course, at least, you've got to have, so the requirements of the capstone thesis are, it's got to be, we're looking for 20 pages. Just talking about the body, right? So 20 pages, not counting your bibliography and your table of contents and your title page and your abstract and all those kind of things, right? Just 20 pages of like the actual thesis. And so it's a long paper, but if you break it down to like intro, conclusion, and 3 major sections, then, it's like 6 page, like 5 pages, 5 pages, 5 pages, and then 2 to 3 pages for the intro, 2 to 3 pages for the conclusion. You're at 20 pages, right? So it's not that big of a deal. It's just like kind of 3 short papers with an intro and conclusion, tying them all together. Anyway, we'll talk about that when we meet together. So 20 pages, that's one requirement. Bibliography, table of contents, title page, abstract, those are requirements. In addition to the 20 pages. Another requirement that I will definitely insist on is at least 10 high-quality, peer-reviewed sources. And I don't just mean 10 peer-reviewed sources that are tacked on at your bibliography. Like, hey, look, I found 10 reviews. No, I mean 10 peer-reviewed sources that you use, that you show that you've read, and that you use effectively in the context of your paper, right? So that's really not too much to ask. It's not even remotely too much to ask for a college, undergraduate, senior level, 4004 level capstone thesis. So that's what we're looking for. Another thing I'm looking for is it should be personal, right? It needs to be your capstone thesis. Some people ask me, should I use I? Hell yeah, I should use I, right? You can't write, it's not somebody else's, this is Baby Yoda. It's not Baby Yoda's capstone thesis, it's your capstone thesis, right? So so you've got to talk about, why are you passionate about this? In 3004, we always require students to write an intellectual autobiography. The whole point of that is to figure out, research is me-search. Why did you choose this topic? Why are you passionate about this? And 9 times out of 10, or more than that, right, your topic is going to have something to do with your future, right? You're about to graduate college. You're going to do something with that degree. What is it that you want to do with your career? What is it you want to do with your life? And hopefully your capstone thesis has something to do with it, right? So how can you understand the capstone thesis as a cap? Maybe we should talk about that word, right? Capstone. So capstone, if you're building a wall, right, you put brick, 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 brick all the way up, then at some point you got to stop building the wall and you've got a cap on the wall. So the capstone is the top of the wall. And it's usually like nice, polished, it looks nice, right? It looks like a cap. It looks different than the other bricks in the wall, right? It's like the cap on the wall. And one nice thing is to think about it not only as like a wall between your education and another brick in the wall, and right, the last brick in the wall, but also more like a bridge, right? You're going to walk over this and you're going to use your capstone. So another thing is that another way that a capstone is different than other kinds of essays that you've written in college, right? Other essays, you don't really care. Like, no employer ever is going to ask to read your philosophy paper. I mean, probably not. It's very, very unlikely, right? There'd be some reason why a professor would, or why a future employer would say, hey, I'd really love to read your philosophy paper. But it's very likely, especially if you graduate with a interdisciplinary studies degree, that they're going to say, hey, what was your interdisciplinary studies capstone thesis about? Another way they might ask the question is, what is interdisciplinary studies? And that you can't say, oh, I don't know, like I failed out of nursing, so it was the easiest path, the fastest way to, come on, right? You've got to have a good answer to that question. What is interdisciplinary studies? Why did you major in interdisciplinary studies? You've got to have a good question for that ready for your interview. And your good answer to that good question that you will get in those interviews, your good answer is going to be to talk about your capstone thesis, right? Talk about why your capstone thesis is interdisciplinary. And it doesn't matter so much whether that's in the paper, but it matters that your interdisciplinary capstone thesis is interdisciplinary, and it matters that you can talk about why it's interdisciplinary and why you needed to, explore this particular topic from an interdisciplinary lens, right? So how can you understand this topic, that really understand, I don't know, like ecology or something, right? That you can't understand ecology just in terms of biology, but you also need chemistry, right? You need to understand the chemistry of biodiversity and that sort of stuff. But you also have to understand it in terms of sociology, right? So how can we bring that sociological aspect into it? How can we get society to care about diversity, or maybe even marketing and design and business and that sort of thing, right? So why is your topic interdisciplinary? Why does it need to be interdisciplinary? Why are you choosing that topic? All of these things need to be part of your paper, right? Not just your paper, but anybody's interdisciplinary capstone thesis. That's what it is, right? Now, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself and saying way too much about the capstone thesis for just the first video or first, introduction to this course. But a lot of you already know me, and I like to just get kind of right down to business. And so let me say a couple of things about the course and the layout of how this course is going to happen. Because this course, as I mentioned in my email to everybody earlier today, this course is listed in the course catalog as a hybrid course, right? Where we're meeting on Wednesdays in person and then other times online. But the reality is, we're not going to do that. We don't really need to do that. And they didn't ask me if I wanted it to be listed that way in the syllabus or in the course catalog. And there's really no reason for us to meet in person every Wednesday. Definitely some benefit to meeting in person now and then. And I will be on campus on Wednesdays, and happy to meet in person on campus with any of you on Wednesdays or Mondays if you want to. But for those of you that can't or don't want to or have other things going on, that's totally fine too. All that really matters is that we meet individually, right? So we're going to meet individually. We need to meet individually as soon as possible, in the next week or two, so we can find out where you are with your thesis. Where are you with your research? Where are you with your project, right? Where are you? Some of you may have already written 5 or 6 pages. Some of you may have if you had me for 3004, then you should already have an outline and all your sources and those kind of things all laid out, right? That's part of what the whole, if you got an A in 3004 in my class, you're good to go, promise. You got everything that you need to get started. So then we'll just our first meeting will be about updating me. Have your thoughts changed? Are you ready to go? Have you made any progress? That sort of thing. If I didn't have you for 3004, or if your project has changed because it's been a lot of years since you had 3004, which I know is the case for some of you, then, so that's what our meeting will be about. Or if you've never had me before, then we'll really, have to spend a little bit more time getting to know each other. But mostly going to be like, tell me about your thesis. What is your thesis? What do you want to do? And, in life after you graduate, what's your future look like? And how does this thesis fit into all of that, right? So that's a lot of what our first meeting is going to be about. Then subsequent meetings will just be like updating me, right? How are you doing? How's the progress coming? How many pages have you written? Where are you stuck? Where are you, I'm here to help you, right? There's lots of different ways for students to think about me. right? One is like a hurdle that you got to jump over. I promise this is not the right way to think about me and my role in this course. Best way to think about me and my role in this course is I am here to help you succeed. I want every single student in my class to get an A. In fact, I'm not really happy with any thesis that's not an A. I kind of expect everybody to get an A. If you don't get an A, I don't know, the way I look at it is you failed to get an A, right? I mean, your capstone thesis, it should be the best paper that you can write. So you either write the best paper you can write or you failed to write the best paper you can write. I don't understand like B, C, and D and all that kind of stuff in the capstone thesis. I mean, it should be the best paper you can write. It's the cap on your education. If you're not ready to write it, then wait until you are. And if you are, then it should be really good. And that means that, you know, you've got to go through multiple drafts and that sort of thing. But it also means that I'm here to help you. I am here to help you write the best damn paper you can write. And that's going to be different for every student. One of the things I'm going to do is share some old capstones with you, right? Some capstones from some of my former students who have gone through the course. Some standouts. I mean, I've got a lot of standouts. I've got a lot of really amazing students over the years, far more than I could share with you. But all the ones that I will share with you have already given their permission. They've said, yeah, sure. I've asked them, like, can I share this with future students? And they, yeah, you know, they're honored in most cases for me to do that. So I'll share some of those theses with you. I don't expect you to read all of them. I think it would be a really good idea, though, for you to read one, right? And I think it would be a really good idea for you to look at several, right? So spend some time going through as many as you can. And when I say going through them, I don't mean reading them from start to finish, but looking over the table of contents, reading the abstract. That'll give you a sense of what a capstone thesis is going to look like, or should look like, or at least what my expectations of it should, you know, are. And you'll get a sense of how much diversity there is, right? There's lots of different kinds of capstones. They don't all look the same. They do look the same in some respects, but there's a lot of diversity in terms of the content and format and that sort of thing. So, and I tried to, when I was like curating or cultivating this, you know, this list of samples, I tried to think, all right, this one's really different. Let me kind of, it's not like the other ones in there, so let me toss it in. Or this title is really good, maybe it'll capture people's attention, that sort of thing, right? So have a look through those samples, pick one and read it. Just try to read it from start to finish, right? It will give you a good sense. It will hopefully inspire you, give you a good sense of what I'm looking for, give you a good sense of what a capstone thesis, what an A looks like, at least what I think an A looks like. How to mix the sort of peer-reviewed academic research with those sort of personal touches, right? The autobiographical elements, like why did I choose this and that sort of thing. It'll help you think about those three sections. So when we meet, if you had me for 3004, you're already familiar with this, right? I'm going to say, what are your three sections? What are the three sections about? And if you haven't had me for 3004, then I definitely want to know, what are your three sections about, right? How have you laid out this paper? And you can have more than three sections. I've never seen a good thesis, capstone thesis, that had less than three sections. But you know, so you're going to have three good sections. A lot of times those fall into like past, present, and future, or like problem, failed attempt to solve the problem, another attempt to solve, you know, like lots of different ways that we can think about these. More traditional ways like thesis, antithesis, synthesis, right? So here's one perspective, here's an argument against that perspective, here's how we can sort of like take both of these and find the best of both worlds kind of thing, right? So thesis, antithesis, synthesis, hypothesis, experiment, and like conclusion. That's another way that these sort of three can fall out, right? Or like historical approaches to the problem, recent approaches to the problem, and here's what I think we should do, right? Or here's how I'm going to fix the problem, or that sort of thing, right? Lots of different ways to, or case studies, like here's a case study, here's a case study, here's a case study. That's another way to do, you know, a three format. Lots of different ways, right? But the question is, how are you going to do these how are you going to write your capstone thesis? So as far as this course, most of it is going to be individual. I mean, 90% of the work is just you do it on your own, right? As far as that other 10%, about half of that time is going to be spent, or more than half of that time will be spent with me. We'll meet individually, progress updates, sitting and reviewing. I'll read your first draft of the thesis really closely and give you lots of feedback and that sort of thing. I'll read drafts as often as you want, and give you feedback as often as you want, or I'll stay hands back, hands off and stand back until you're ready for me to read a draft, that sort of thing. For the most part, but I do need to see progress along the way. Say more about that when we meet. But the best way to do this, so you can either write it in Microsoft Word and put that Word in a shared folder, that Word document in a shared folder that both of us have access to, so I can see your progress along the way in the file versions and that sort of thing as you're writing. Or the other option is Google Docs. Can't do Pages or any of those sort of Mac specific things because I don't have a Mac, right? But those are your two options. So Google Docs shared with me, or Microsoft Word shared with me. Really is up to you. There's pros and cons to both of those options, and so whichever one you're most comfortable with, that's the one to go with. Most of the work is individual. Most of the rest of the work is individual with me, one-on-one meetings with me. But then there is going to be a small piece of it where, a small but important piece of it, where you're doing some work with a peer group, right? Where you're reading some of your peers' works, where you're reading somebody else's thesis, giving them some feedback, some hopefully positive, affirmative, constructive feedback. And also listening to their feedback, right? It's helpful to have somebody else in the course, somebody who's in the same boat as you, to read your work and to give you feedback on it. So we're going to do some peer work, right? So I want you to meet with somebody in the group, in the class, who's going through this, right? So you can kind of talk through things, and there's just a lot of benefits. It's hard to even articulate all the benefits of that sort of peer work. Granted, whoever you're working with, whoever you're talking to, they're going to be doing something probably pretty different than what you are. Everybody's capstone thesis is unique. That's part of what makes it a capstone thesis, is that it's always going to be unique, right? Sorry, I'm probably just like boring you, right? By standing in one place, try and make things more interesting. But here's the thing, right? I mean, when you're writing your capstone thesis, you also have to keep your audience interested, right? And so keep things fresh, and it's so helpful to think about it. What's going to capture your audience's attention, and what's going to hold their attention, and how can you really make the points that you're trying to make. Anyway, I think this is more than enough. So we're not going to meet, as I've said, we're not going to meet in person as a class on Wednesdays. In fact, we're not going to meet as a group probably at all. At least if we do, it won't be required. Maybe we'll have some. Anyway, that's it. Mostly we're going to meet one-on-one. So you need to schedule an appointment with me as soon as possible. All that information will be in the syllabus, and in an email that I send out with the syllabus, so that you can schedule an appointment with me. And please keep that appointment. Just some basic things, like when you when you choose a time to meet with me, make sure that you type your email correctly, and make sure that you show up on time, right? And don't cancel or don't flake and that kind of stuff, right? That kind of stuff is not good, right? I'm looking for adults who are professional and care about what they're doing. So, schedule a meeting whenever it suits your schedule, but then keep that meeting, become prepared, be on time, all those sort of things. And we'll just talk it through, right? And see what your project is about, and we'll kind of go from there. So, I look forward to meeting with each and every one of you in hopefully the next like 10 days or so. So today is September 2nd. So, in the next by September 14, 15, something like that. Next couple weeks, schedule a meeting with me so you can meet and talk through your thesis together and just see where you are. And that's it. And sometime very soon, that cow right there, Buttercup, she's gonna have a baby, and I'll be milking cows. So, well, I'm not milking cows, but milking that cow. Anyway, I look forward to meeting each one of you, meeting anybody that I haven't met, and I look forward to catching up with those of you that I've worked with in the past. Super excited about this course. I love this course. I look forward to learning about you and learning about your projects. I'm learning from you and seeing your enthusiasm and your passion and seeing what you create, and I'm excited to help you get there. I've got, one of the things that a lot of my students have said in the past is like, trust the process, right? I've got a process. I've got it all laid out for you. If you follow the steps that I give you, if you follow my advice along the way, you will be successful. You will write an A paper and you'll be proud of what you write in the end, and I'll be proud of it, and we'll all learn from the experience, and you'll be eager for people to read it and show it off, right? And which is what it's all about. Honestly, it is. Anyway, I look forward to meeting with each of you, and I'm happy to have you in the class. Happy to be teaching the class again. And word. Peace out. See you soon. Namaste.